When Knight Rider premiered in 1982, it became clear early on that this was unlike any other car-centric television show ever produced. Viewers, young and old alike, were mesmerized with the Knight Industries 2000, or KITT, an indestructible car that could talk, leap over obstacles, and drive itself. That last point, a car that could drive itself, is perhaps one of the pieces of television magic that captivated audiences the most, and what we're going to be talking about today. Well, it's not 1982 any longer, unfortunately, and all of those little kids who watched the show, like myself, are now 40 and 50-somethings. So, at the risk of ruining another aspect of your childhood, I'm here to tell you, spoiler alert, KITT didn't actually drive himself. I know, it sucks, right? Well, welcome to being an adult. So now that we've ripped off the Band-Aid, let's dig into the magic of KITT's autocruise capability, which the cast and crew referred to as blind driving. We're going to dig into how this feature was pulled off, from the special PMD seat suit to the dedicated blind drive cars that showed up later in the series. Also, we will reveal the fates of those cars. Welcome to the Knight Rider Historians. When NBC commissioned the Knight Rider pilot, series creator Glenn A. Larson was able to secure 4 brand new black 1982 Pontiac Trans Ams for filming. They ended up using those 4 cars exclusively for most of the first season, which meant that the show didn't yet have the resources to build a dedicated blind drive car. So, instead, they built what we lovingly call the PMD seat suit. When the scene called for KITT to be driving by himself, the stunt crew would take one of the KITT cars, the hero car, a stunt car, it didn't matter, and they would remove the driver's seat. A stunt driver would then, quite literally, put on a special suit that was sewn to look like KITT's PMD seat. PMD, by the way, is short for Pontiac Motor Division, and that's the nickname that Trans Am enthusiasts give the style of seats that KITT had, which were a factory Pontiac seat. There's a badge in the front of the seat labeled PMD, hence the nickname. Pontiac's actual name for these seats are Viscount seats with a V. These Viscount/PMD seats would turn out to be absolutely perfect for the stunt drivers to use for KITT's blind driving due to their open headrest design. But anyways, back on topic. While we don't have any photos or video of this original seat suit out of the car, we can see glimpses of it while watching the series, most notably in the pilot. Check out this scene, the first time we see KITT driving by himself, and you'll see a stunt driver pulling up to David Hasselhoff in a parking lot. Note how the driver appears to be wearing brown, furry, long-sleeve gloves as well. Now, this seat suit could be considered a bit crude when compared to the blind drive seats the stunt crew would later have in the series, but nonetheless, this style of seat suit would continue throughout Season 1. When an unfortunate train derailment turned into a fortunate event for Knight Rider, the studio suddenly had an abundance of Trans Ams for the show. Now, if you're not familiar with the train derailment incident, check out our episode commentary for The Final Verdict. We do a special segment on the derailment that will get you up to speed. I'll link it in the description below. Because of this influx of cars to the show, the stunt crew could finally build a dedicated blind drive car, a car used exclusively for scenes where KITT was to drive by himself, and one where they wouldn't have to constantly install and remove the blind drive apparatus. When they built this car, they decided to build a new blind drive covering too. Instead of the stunt crew wearing a suit made to look like a seat, the crew heavily modified a factory PMD seat so the stunt driver could actually climb inside the seat and drive by looking out the headrest opening. To help hide the stunt driver's face, they installed a thin black mesh in the headrest openings to obscure their eyes. This car first appears in the very first episode of Knight Rider filmed for Season 2, Return to Cadiz. It's easy to spot in this season because it is the only car to have a passenger side sun visor. It featured a Knight Rider dash cell on top of the stock dashboard, a round stunt wheel on a modified steering column to allow the stunt driver, who is now sitting basically in the back seat, the ability to reach the wheel. It also featured a custom lengthened shifter, so it too could be reached from the back seat. For Knight Rider's third season, KITT received a brand new 1 TV dashboard. So what happened to the original 2 TV dashboard? It was placed in this blind drive car. Now, many fans have spotted KITT's 2 TV dash in later seasons of the show when he supposedly was already upgraded to his 1 TV dash. When you see this 2 TV dash, you are looking at the blind drive car. At some point, the original pods were unfortunately cut off, most likely to allow the stunt drivers more legroom. So, what happened to this car when the show ended? It languished in Universal's transportation lot for about a year after filming concluded, before meeting its fate under a wrecking ball and ultimately being placed in a car shredder. And before you ask, we don't know if the dash was removed before that happened. It does, however, appear that the blind drive seat was removed. Now, wait a minute. At the beginning of this video, I referenced blind drive cars, as in more than one. While Season 2 only had one dedicated blind drive car, Season 3 saw the introduction of a second blind drive car, one that could be driven from the passenger side. Between Seasons 2 and 3, car customizer George Barris was commissioned by Universal Studios to build a dedicated blind drive car that could be blind driven from the right-hand side using a series of cables, sprockets, and chains. For those of you not familiar with George Barris, he is perhaps most famous for being the mastermind behind the construction of the 1966 Batmobile for the 1966 Batman series starring Adam West. So, back to Knight Rider. In order to start on this project, Barris needed a car. And what car did the studio give him for this project? The original hero car from Seasons 1 and 2. The car that Michael Chaffee built and delivered to the studio to film the pilot way back in 1982. Remember, for Season 3, KITT was receiving an all-new dashboard, and the builders declined to just upgrade the original hero car, instead opting to build a new hero car out of another Trans Am. With this new hero car in place, the old one was no longer needed, so Universal Studios gave this one to Barris to modify. Barris began by removing the Season 1-2 hero dashboard, which would end up in the first blind drive car that we talked about earlier. He and his crew then set about in building a mechanism that would allow the stunt drivers to control the car from the passenger side. This was accomplished by first installing pedals on the right-hand side and connecting them with special cables that ran all the way to the front of the car and back to the original pedals on the driver's side. In fact, if you watch certain scenes in the series, you can see those cables. He then added a steering wheel and column, which was connected to the original steering column through a series of sprockets and chains, similar to one found on a common bicycle. Other controls such as the line lock actuator was relocated as well. A brand new right-hand version of the blind drive seat was also built. This new setup would allow KITT to drive up to Michael to get in, and drive off, all without cutting the scene. You can see them experiment with this type of scene in the first episode filmed with this new right-hand blind drive setup, Season 3's The Ice Bandits. By the way, for those of you interested in the details, this new blind drive car was constructed at Barris' shop between June 22nd and July 17th of 1984. So where is this car now? Well, if you've watched my past videos on what happened to the vehicles used as car in the Super Pursuit mode, KITT, you are getting used to me saying that these cars were crushed. Well, in this instance, I have some good news for you. That is not the case with the right-hand blind drive car. It still exists to this day. When the show ended, the surviving Knight Rider cars were purchased by a car show promotion company and toured extensively throughout the United States. The right-hand blind drive equipment was removed, and a new dashboard was installed in its place. Remember, these cars were going out on the show circuit, so fans didn't expect to see half a dash with mechanical chains and sprockets. They wanted to see a full Knight Rider dash, and that's what this car promotion company did. This car sat in the Cruise Automotive Museum for decades. In fact, it was part of our Picture Car Reunion event in 2017. It still sports evidence of its previous life both as the right-hand blind drive car and as the Season 1-2 hero car. This car is now off display and has been in private storage for a number of years. But yes, it does still survive. So, did you enjoy this deep dive into the blind drive cars? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, do you have any photos from the set or stories? Or do you have any props or production items from the show? If so, we would love to hear from you. Drop us a line at nightriderhistorians@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peake himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. We are featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.